Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, I've never been more excited to have a particular game on my CRT than right here, right now, Daxter, baby. We're going back to some PSP games on the PlayStation 5, and this has been such a fun stretch here. Last video, we sat down to talk about PS2 games on PS5. Now, PlayStation's gradually been adding to this classics library, but there's been a new shot in the arm. New tools for the ports themselves, with a rewind feature, save states, changing the controls, but it also came in a mixed bag. We went over Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, Star Wars The Clone Wars, and Tomb Raider Legend. And as I defined in that video, it was very much a good, great, and bad sort of bunch where you got to see the range of the emulation and what exactly we should expect from PlayStation from the lowest of quality to the highest of quality. And today, we're going over PSP games. We have two brand new PSP games added into the PlayStation Plus Classics library, being Daxter and LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. We're also going to talk about Ghost Hunter, the other new addition to the library, because I thought it was only fair while it's here and added today. We may as well get into it, but we're really going to focus on the two new additions to the PSP library. Now, for complete transparency, I've never played PSP games on the PS5, so this is all new to me, but I did play a ton of my PSP growing up. I also want to issue a correction from last video. Oftentimes I talked about backwards compatibility. I think that was the wrong term to use, and you were right to call me out on that. Reality is you're not throwing a disc or a UMD into your PlayStation. It's working that way. These are ports that are up for purchase on the PlayStation storefront for PS4 and PS5. You can also download them for free as part of your PlayStation Plus subscription, but back compat, they are not. These are just ports with some added features in the mix. So thank you for your feedback. As always, truly, you do help fuel this channel through your comments, your inquiries, your write-ins over on the Patreon. All of it makes the wheels go round here, so thank you for supporting in any way you do. Let's talk more about these PSP games on PS5 because the library couldn't be more Maddie coded. I think Daxter speaks for itself. I'll get into that in a moment. I actually want to sit down and speak on LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. The reason being is I found this to be such a peculiar pick, as I talked about in our last video, because this version here on the PSP is what I played growing up. I never played LEGO Star Wars 2 on my PS2 or any consoles. I distinctly remember getting on my PSP. I remember playing it one night during Halloween and our house got egged and I lost my mind because it was just loud bangs against my bedroom window. Scared the life out of me. I ended up crying. Look, I was young at the time, all right? Bear with me. Freaked me the heck out. These stupid pranksters out there, how dare you hurt childhood Maddie while he's enjoying some LEGO Star Wars 2. But nonetheless, it's really good to be back here playing this game. I miss this old LEGO Star Wars vibe. The linear levels and whatnot is why I'm actually pretty excited for LEGO Horizon Adventures. I just love the idea of going back to that more simple, top-down, structured LEGO formula. I do love the open world LEGO formula. Ever since they introduced it with LEGO Batman 2, I've been in love with it. But returning to this was really nice. Of course, the visuals I was very shocked by. I thought things looked sharp. It's a bit of a mixed bag, though. There are certain textures that don't look great. Like when you look at the details on, say, the clothing, if you will, of some of the LEGO characters' bodies. Very fuzzy, whereas the faces look good. The world and its assets look pretty good, from the environment to some of the lighting. It's all translated well, even on a big screen, which I was not expecting at all. So yeah, the image quality is a bit sharper than I was expecting, but there were a couple of frame dips here and there as I was playing. Nothing completely out of the ordinary where I went, oh my God, what is going on here? This is awful. I noticed that a little bit more with Daxter. We'll talk about that. With LEGO Star Wars 2, honestly great. My only qualm with this port, no trophies. I couldn't believe it, man. I thought they were going to do it. This doesn't mean it'll never get trophies, as we've seen with the PlayStation Plus Classics catalog. Some games are receiving trophies retroactively. We talked about that already. Games like Abe's Exodus, for example, got trophies added to the PS1 Classic, and I love that. So it's possible that LEGO Star Wars 2 gets trophies. I would hope so. If we have Clone Wars getting trophies, come on, LEGO Star Wars 2 should be getting trophies, absolutely. I don't play games strictly for trophies anymore, but I won't lie, kind of took the wind out of my sails when I noticed this one. So just buyer beware if you're picking this one up thinking, oh, sweet, I love LEGO Star Wars 2, and I can get trophies for it now. You cannot. But the game looks great. It's still a ton of fun, but just keep that in mind if trophy support matters. Otherwise, new features here added in with these ports may be useful, like being able to save whenever, so you could save mid-level, put down the controller, go where you gotta go, do what you gotta do, and pick the game back up, whereas previously in LEGO Star Wars, you couldn't save mid-level, so you would always have to finish the level. That's why I loved it on PSP, because I would just put it on sleep mode and put it in my charger, go do what I had to do, and then pick up the level where I left off. But that's a little bit different here on console. Now with the save states built in, you could have that. But other features like rewind aren't going to be super useful here, unless maybe you missed a collectible and you want to go back in the level. Something along those lines, that's where it could be pretty useful for you. But otherwise, LEGO Star Wars 2 looks and runs a little bit better than I was anticipating. Does the same apply to the game on screen behind me? We even have the complete box behind me, Daxter, kinda. But look, this game could be running at 10 FPS, and I would be out here shilling for it because I love Daxter. I'll always remember getting a PSP for my birthday one year, and the feeling I had of excitement, it's like a whole new world opened up to me. My PSP was given to me at such a key point in my life where, as I've told many a times before, the reason I have such an affinity for handheld gaming is all the travel I did as a kid. And you know, the DS did its thing, the Game Boy Advance did its thing. These were still relevant selections in the Matty portfolio, but the reality is I was looking for something a little bit new. And the PSP caught my eye when I tested it at a buddy's house. My parents were so nice to get me one, and it came with Daxter, and I love Daxter. I mean, I love the whole Jak and Daxter franchise. Honestly, 2 of the 3 PS2 mascots have been long neglected on this channel in Jak as well as Ratchet. Ratchet, I don't think I have a good excuse for because that IP is pretty active. I've had times where I could have dropped retrospectives on the Ratchet games. There's so many to go through. We'd be here for a while, but I love them so much. And Jak and Daxter, now with Daxter being available here on the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4, it means that all of the Jak and Daxter series is available on modern hardware. That's a huge deal, and that definitely motivates me to kind of want to pick up the whole series, run through it, and do a deep dive, a massive retrospective. I think that would be so much fun. So I'll have that tossed around the noggin because playing Daxter, again, bringing back a ton of memories here. Swatting bugs, collecting precursor orbs, getting gold gems from these bugs I'm beating up, but most importantly is being in the Matrix, right? The little mini game where you're beating up enemies, running your way. What a goofy game. I love the dream mini games in Daxter. I will say this trophy list is stupid easy if you've played the game before. This looks like a free platinum trophy. It's going for 10 bucks. Kind of an easy sell. One thing I really appreciated about this Daxter port is that they remapped the controls automatically for when you fired it up. In particular, camera controls. Love to see that sort of stuff here. Hope it keeps up. What you may forget, especially my Vita lovers out there, is the PlayStation Portable only had one analog stick, and it happened to be an analog stick that many of us thought was a speaker. Guilty as charged. But yeah, it wasn't until the Vita they added a second analog stick and that natural camera control was there. Oftentimes in 3D games on the PSP, you would control the camera with the left and right bumpers. And this worked. Some games it felt better than others, but as you've seen games get ported off the PSP and onto modern hardware, I think of Crisis Core as another example, you realize how great these games truly feel when the camera control is mapped to the right analog stick. They did that here with Daxter automatically. In fact, it took me a moment to realize I was running around controlling the camera as you would, and I thought, hold on a minute, this is full camera control. Now, you can't look up and down. That's obviously breaking the rules of how the camera works in game. They would have to go in and just completely reprogram that, but you can move things horizontally left and right with the right analog stick, which I think is a tremendous improvement. It makes the game feel immensely better. I was never a fan of the whole rotating the camera with the left and right triggers. You just kind of tolerated it because the PSP was limited in that capacity. While the actual game itself, again, much like LEGO Star Wars 2, I think looks really good. The image quality is sharp here, sharper than I ever expected. You know what I was anticipating, and maybe my expectations were lower than some of yours out there, but I was really thinking that Daxter and LEGO Star Wars 2 and any other PSP games were going to come in and kind of just be very blurred out images, not like ugly, but Switch Vaseline type ugly, where it's tolerable, but it looks like something's wrong. But I thought the image quality here looked really good for what I was expecting. What I did notice with Daxter compared to LEGO Star Wars 2 was a lot more frame dips, a lot more stuttering, a lot more technical issues. And the ugliest part of this package is when you get to those cutscenes. Yeah, these have not been touched up at all, as I'm sure you'd expect with a quick $10 port. Again, you get what you pay for here. I'm not going to ask for the world at $10, and I'm happy with what I'm getting here because the emulation features work really well with something like Daxter. This is a collectible focused game, so you'll be sliding down the tubes. Oops, I missed a precursor orb. Now you can rewind. Go ahead back and get that try again, which is what I did. You can save state, of course. You can turn on and off the enhancements. You can remap the controls, which I don't think you really need to do in this game, but that's something you could do if you wanted to. And so yeah, it's just a great way to experience an all-time PSP classic, and I miss these days, man. I know I'm pushing toward 30 here, but I really do genuinely miss these days where you could fire up your PSP and you had Ready at Dawn making new God of War games, new Jak and Daxter spin-offs. Like, it was just so cool. I miss the days where our favorite series were active with other developers, getting tons of spin-offs, new ideas injected into it, because I mean, you look at a game like Daxter, it's a product of its time in many ways, but it's such a key part of my childhood growing up. It's just wonderful to have it back. The emotions and the memories immediately started flooding in playing this one. You know, of course, the voice acting being excellent, but just also it being a really great 3D platformer with pretty simple beat 'em up combat. But I just love the charm and personality of Daxter. So that's there and available for you. And the last game added to the library, not PSP, but we'll talk about it anyway because it was a part of the new additions, is a PS2 game called Ghost Hunter. This is hilarious because my newfound movie knowledge is going to shine through here when I make this comparison, but it looks like Namco sat down and said, hey, Brad Pitt in Seven looks kind of cool. Let's take him and mold him with Ron Paulson, make him sound that way, and then have him hunt ghosts. And that's what you got here. I could see this game being a guilty pleasure for some. I could see others out there saying, hey, this is actually really charming. When I looked up the reviews for it, it scored pretty decently around the 7s and 8s, and there's a lot of fans I saw on Reddit saying, oh my god, I love this. Why doesn't anyone talk about it? I'm going to be the last person to ever complain about a hidden gem and under-discussed game being added to a classics library. That's the fun part about this subscription service-driven classics library that Nintendo and PlayStation are doing. On one front, I kind of don't like it because I can't buy it a la carte in the case of Nintendo, but PlayStation's giving me that option, which is why I'm more positive of it. But because of the subscription service and the recurring content, you're starting to get these deeper dives here and there. And while certainly I'm like many of you, like, where's Ratchet? Where's more Jak games? Like, why don't we just pour it on hot with more of these big popular IP before we get to the nitty gritty with something like Ghost Hunter? I like that they have a deep cut game here like this. And I like that it has trophy support as well. Of course, you're always going to hear me say that. As we continue to do these types of videos, I'm always going to cheer on the trophy support because it adds a new layer to these classic games. Now, this is a really interesting title in that you can switch to first-person perspective and third-person perspective, and you can go into hunting mode where you'll shoot these ghosts and you'll throw out a grenade and you'll capture these spirits. It's super clumsy, kind of charming, but I'm weird with audio in games where this title in particular had the same track looping on what I think was a 1-minute timer, and you could hear the hard break in the music, and it was driving me up a wall. So this was one that I'll admit didn't fall too much in love with. I'll wait to see what y'all say in the comments if I really should press forward with Ghost Hunter, if it really is a big hidden gem there. But it was kind of corny and goofy in a way that wasn't vibing with me. Like, I like Silent Hill type goofy and corny, where the voice acting's kind of poor, but at the same time, it's part of the charm of this otherwise extremely serious and compelling story. There's something about it there versus Ghost Hunter not taking itself seriously in its story, but its gameplay and its creatures and its systems and its cutscenes are designed to be a little more horror-esque. It's a very strange style game. I do recommend if you have PlayStation Plus, fire it up and see how it goes for you. It's certainly not an avoid at all costs. Just when I'm looking at the slew of games I have here in front of me, of games I want to platinum, classics I want to dive back into, top of my list is Daxter as well as Sly Cooper. So that's where my attention is going to be, and then I'll move on to Clone Wars. But yeah, PSP Games on PS5. Very surprised at how great it is. I have to say the visual quality is up further than I expected. The trophies are obviously welcome. And of course, those same emulation features that you came to know and adore, or not, with the PlayStation 2 ports we already talked about are here for the PSP games, and they work really well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on PSP games on PS5. Fire away down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Other than that, I will catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.